Today we're going to be tying a pattern known as the wired Stonefly Nymph. For this, if I can remember where I put my bobbin, for this we are going to be using some black thread, and today we're tying this on a size 6 hook with the appropriate side tungsten bead. In this case I'm using a copper color instead of gold. We're going to be using 0.25 lead wire, and just go ahead and do about 10 wraps of this. You can either cut it or break it off. In this case I'm just going to get in there real close and cut it, and just push it up against your bead. With this heavier wire you're probably going to have to go on these end points and just push them down with your thumb. Once you get that on there, go ahead and take some black thread and just start it on the shank of your hook right behind your wire wraps, and just do a few wraps up through the wire just to lock it in. Now you're going to work your way down the shank of the hook to right about the bend. And here you're going to take some Goose Biots. Here I'm using brown, and you can rip them off at the same time or snip them off, but the main thing is as you can see, they have just a slight natural curve to them. So what you're going to do is that curve, you want them curved away from each other. You can do 2 at the same time or 1 at a time. I'm just going to do 1 at a time. You want about half the length of the shank of the hook. So just do 1 loose wrap, 2 loose wraps. Just make sure it's in place. And you are going to take your other Goose Biot, which looks like I just knocked off my table. Go ahead and rip another one off. You're going to tie that in. Same place that you tied the other one. Just do a couple loose wraps. Make sure it's into place. This one seems to scoot up on me there. And just tie in the rest of it up the body. And if you want, in this case I'm going to bring the thread back down, and I'm going to put thread wrap behind each one of these biots, kind of help them spread out a little bit more. And from here you're going to take some wire. I'm using black medium and gold medium ultra wire. And what this is going to do, you're going to tie it in and wrap it up the shank of the hook, and it's going to create a nice rib pattern. To begin with, you're just going to tie them in right behind your lead wraps. Kind of more on top there. You want it on the side. Help give this fly a little bit more girth. You're going to go back almost to the tail, but not quite. And just wrap back up and just even out the body of the fly here. Create a nice taper up to that lead wire. And we're going to bring our wire up to about that point there. So from here, go ahead and take your wire and start wrapping it up the shank of the hook. Might leave a little gap at first. Just get in there. Sorry, move my vise there out of focus. Just move it up. Once you get into a groove, these wire wraps will lay right next to each other. So those first couple of wraps you may need to push together. Let's go ahead and tie these off. And you can helicopter these off or snip them off. I'm just going to try to get in there and snip them off. Normally I helicopter, but a little more difficult with 2 wires. And we can just go back, even all this out with thread. Back part of my body right now, back part of the body of this nymph, it's looking a little more thicker in the front. From here, you're going to tie in some thin skin, scud backing, whatever you prefer. I'm using 1/8 inch black scud backing. You're going to just want to tie this in on top of the shank. Just get it all the way back to your wire wraps there. Just make sure that's in there nice and secure. Scud backing can tend to be a little slick and want to come out of the thread wraps. It's just going to prevent it from doing so. And we're going to be using some Hare's Ice Dub Tan. You're going to take just a small clump. Create a nice dubbing noodle there. And bring it back just up against the dubbing. And you're going to take another couple of Goose Biots, tie them in along the side of the body, do a couple loose wraps, and once you get the way you want it, just go ahead and do a couple of tight wraps. Repeat it on the same for the other side, keeping them about the same length. And once you have them in place, just go ahead and trim out the butt ends. You're going to take a little bit more ice dub, just work it on, and then pull your scud backing or thin skin up and over. Do 2 wraps over and then a couple of wraps in front of it. What it's going to do is create a nice segmentation look. You're going to want to repeat this process 2 more times, working your way up to the front of the fly. And once you get up to the front here, just do some thread wraps over this thin skin, lock it down in place. kind of like do a couple back and forths, a couple over, a couple in front. Just make sure it's locked down. And you can trim out the excess. Let's do a whip finish. And you can put some UV glue or some head cement on your thread wraps here just to make sure everything's locked into place. And there you have the wired Stonefly Nymph. Thank you for joining us today on the Water Flies. I'll see you next time.